Today on Foghorn, we take a look at patch 0710 on PTS. There's the continuation of the Royal Navy event, ranked sprints, changes to torpedo warnings and matchmaking, and Halloween. Patch 0710 sees the second part of the Royal Navy event, with 4 more weeks of missions to complete and the weekly leaderboard to compete in once you've completed the directives. There are no more Submarines to earn in this patch, but you can still spend the ones you've earned in 079. I hope those of you wanting the early release British destroyers have got at least one out of the crates. In this patch you'll be able to get Halloween crates instead of the Royal Navy crates. You'll still be able to collect guineas to save up for the Cossack. Don't forget that you won't quite end up with enough, so you might want to go and check out the premium shop whilst logged into the website, as there may be a deal for you to buy 10 guineas for around 99 pence or cents, which will give you what you need to get the Cossack for free at the end of 0711. 0710 also falls over Halloween, so you can expect the usual spooky shenanigans like this very atmospheric Halloween port featuring Steve. Say hi, Steve. Halloween's main feature, as always, is the themed operations, and this year the 2016 and 2017 operations are available to play again, including a hard mode version of Sunray in the Darkness. The new Horror of the Deep operation is the crown jewel of the festivities, where you can take control of one of several new steampunk-style submarines and hunt your prey using the new depth control mechanic, and take in the stunning underwater scenery. Be careful of that oxygen level though, or you might get caught out. You can see my separate video on the introduction of submarines for more detail. Also available for Halloween are 4 new permanent camos for North Carolina, Kiev, Z-23, and a special animated skin for Mogami, which looks fantastic. All are available for 5,000 doubloons in-game. Now, the dev notes say that these are only available for PTS, so it's unclear whether these will make it to the live server or some other time in the future. Something you may not be aware of in the margins of the hype surrounding submarines is the introduction in 0710 of ranked sprint, or what the community seem to be calling junior ranked. This game mode is based on the extant rank mode, but is aimed at beginner players to give them a taste of competitive in an easily accessible form. Ranked Sprint will consist of 2 short seasons of 6v6 and 8v8 in Tier 5 ships. The notes don't say whether premiums are included, but I think they will be. Each season will have 10 ranks divided into 2 leagues, ranks 10 to 6 and then ranks 5 to 1. Unlike normal ranked mode, players can enter in divisions of up to 3, as long as all the players are in the same league. There's no Seawolf style after party. Once you hit rank 1, you've finished. There are small prizes for each rank of signals and so on, nice for newer players, and the end prize is coal. Ranks 10, 9, 8, 5, 3 and 1 are irrevocable, so climbing the ladder should be fairly easy, allowing most players to rank out without too much stress. Think of it as diet ranked or ranked light. Which ship will you choose? Fast battleship Congo? The only tier 5 heavy cruiser for Ataka? Stealthy destroyer Minakaze? Join the StatsFolk Discord server to discuss tactics and setups, and I'll stick the link down in the description. In 0710, the torpedo warning system has been made more intelligent. It's not something that you'll notice necessarily if it's working well, but you should get fewer unnecessary alarms for torpedoes which can't possibly hit you because you're nowhere near them, or they're nowhere near where you're going to be. Matchmaking will also see a slight change in this patch, with destroyers being limited to a maximum of 4 per team in random battles, unless the queue time is longer than 3 minutes. Co-op matches will see a limit of 4 destroyers and 4 battleships per team. Now, the patch notes don't actually say per team, but 2 per team seems a little bit drastic, so I'm assuming that it's 4 per team. A new port UI section called Supply has been added. You may already have noticed that the past couple of months there have been daily rewards for logging into the game, and Supply introduces the idea of chained rewards for logging in on consecutive days. Collect your prize immediately, or just leave it and it will be credited to your account automatically at the end of the day. You don't even have to play a match to collect the reward, just log in. Well, that's it from Foghorn for today. If you've enjoyed this update, like this video and please do subscribe to my channel and help me hit 100 subs. Your support means a lot to me, and I really enjoy creating this content for you. Take care of each other, and I'll speak to you soon. Oh, also stick around because I'll stick some extra game footage that I didn't work into this video. So if you stick around, I'll put some Submarine gameplay and some junior rank gameplay in as well at the end. See you soon. So here's a little bit of Submarine gameplay from the normal mode, the normal difficulty mode of the Darkness operation. And actually, on PTS, it's actually very difficult to get in to try this because you have to be in a division. And because there's not many people playing on PTS, and I don't know anyone really that plays on PTS, that was around at the time, I only got to have 2 goes, and so I wish they'd put it as the operation of the week, because that would have made it much easier just to join the queue. But unfortunately on PTS at the moment, one of the older operations is operation of the week. I don't know why they've done that, but that's how they've done it. So actually the chances to try this out are a little bit limited unless you've got lots of friends who are on PTS. But nevertheless, I did manage to get into this game where there's only 4 of us. I think you should have 6, I think is the number for the operation. And so consequently, normally half the team are down on this side, or at least 2 of the ships are down on this side, where you can see I've started there. But I'm actually here on my own, which makes this considerably more difficult. So I'm not going to show you the entire game because we lost terribly because there's only 4 of us, but down here, I did get to play around with these battleships a little bit, and then later on I get to tussle with some cruisers and some destroyers, and play around with the depth mechanic. But the one thing that strikes me about this, and to be honest I was a little bit disappointed by, was the fact that at periscope depth, your oxygen meter, so on the submarines, they have different lengths of time that you can be under. So the Barracuda here is a minute. The Gefalcon, I think, is a minute and a half, something like that. So you can't be under for very long, and actually you can't be under really unless you stay at maximum range and basically just sit there. You can't get under, torp something and get out again without having to surface, because you simply don't have time, which means that at some point you are going to have to fully breach the surface, not just come to periscope depth. You have to come all the way up in order to recharge your oxygen. And so to me, that it's not what submarines are about. Submarines are about staying unspotted, and yes, I'm thinking about how this is going to be implemented in random battles, and they're competitive and so on later on potentially, because I am not personally a big fan of operations. I just don't like PvE. It's just not my thing. So yes, that is what I'm thinking of. And for PvE, for the people who like PvE, I think this will work well. It's fun. The operation has been designed with this surfacing and oxygen mechanic in mind, so that it is actually possible to complete the mission. And I was watching the first stream where they did a full game, and Jingles was divvied up with Conway and Chrysantos, and they immediately got 5 stars in the first attempt at the normal mode, and they failed horribly at the hard mode, which is how it should be. And they seemed like they were having fun. But as I said, it's just not my cup of tea. I'm not sure about how this would work, because if you think if that was a player sitting over there, or 2 players and battleships sitting over there, how am I going to get up to them, strike them, and get away again? And it definitely shouldn't be impossible to spot me. Otherwise, submarines would just become this, unseen killer force that you can't do anything about. But it should certainly be difficult, but it should be possible for me to stealth strike a ship and get away again without being spotted. And I think perhaps the simple answer to that is that the oxygen timer just needs to be a lot longer. So maybe that you have 4 minutes or 5 minutes, so that you can get into position, launch a couple of torpedoes, and then get out again. I don't think that you should be able to do massive alpha strikes, so I think maybe 2 torpedoes perhaps would be perfectly sufficient, and you just keep going back and doing that. Go away, surface, get your oxygen back. And so there is some risk involved, because of course you're going to be in amongst the enemy ships, and if they're doing their organization correctly, of having battleships being protected by other ships, cruisers and destroyers and so on, then if one of the battleships does get, especially in competitive, if one of the battleships gets hit by a sub, then the rest of the team can start hunting them. And so there will be some risk involved. They can bring some sonar over, and I have some thoughts about how sonar could be the range. I think I said in my other submarine video, the range could be increased for spotting submarines only, to make it very risky to be in a submarine around ships that have sonar, so that you can become this stealth striker. And also, possibly the mechanic could be that if you're at periscope depth, you have some kind of snorkel that allows you to either not lose oxygen, or maybe just lose it at a slower rate, something like that. Because to me, being a submarine, you should be at periscope depth in battle most of the time, and you shouldn't have to surface every minute, because that's just not realistic. And it just makes submarines destroyers with a concealment gimmick, like a consumable that allows you to drop your concealment for 60 seconds. Whereas it should be the other way around. It should be, you spend most of your time under the water, and then you just have to come up for air very occasionally. And these, you'll see in a second here, these submarines actually recharge their oxygen very quickly. So perhaps that could be the compensation, is that when you do have to come up after however many minutes it is that you can spend underwater in a match, then you actually have to spend quite a long time on the surface. So rather than the few seconds, see the oxygen meter going up there pretty quickly, rather than just having to surface for a few seconds and then go back down again, perhaps you have to spend longer. I think that would work a bit better for PvP. There we go. But the graphics, I love that that view up towards the surface. The surface of the water there looks beautiful, and the depth charges coming down just look fantastic. I know they're Halloween styled, but you can imagine what they would be like if it was more realistic. And you're just thinking, uh-oh, when's it going to go off? What depth is it going to go off at, and how much damage is it going to do? And if one drops right next to you, you're really worrying. So I like the fact they've captured that aspect of submarine gameplay. It's really good. So you can see now there's a cruiser up there in front of me. Obviously they're a lot faster moving. They've got sonar, and so they are much more of a threat than the battleships are. And also, of course, in this operation you've got the catapults and the land installations, which apparently can't spot you. So Jingles realised this during the stream. They can't spot you, but if you are ship spotted, then they will shoot at you. So you've got nothing to worry about if you're on the surface and there's no other ships around to spot you. Moving over then to have a look at, I keep wanting to call it Junior Ranked. The official title I think is Ranked Sprint, or Sprint Ranked, Ranked Sprint. But I think everyone's going to call it Junior Ranked. So, which I think is quite an endearing name actually, Junior Ranked. So this particular match is 6v6. I think the description was unclear, but I think it's going to be one season of 6-6 and one season of 8v8. So this is 6v6, and of course everyone is tier 5, and there are no premiums because this is PTS, and they don't give you premiums on PTS unless they want you to have premiums on PTS, and we didn't have that. So everyone is in a normal for credits ship, and there's quite a mixture. You could see I played quite a few matches, and people were trying out all sorts of different things. Funny enough, the Emerald seemed to be very popular. The Furataka was very popular, and there were quite a few people playing Bogues, so I think we're going to see a lot of carriers, because carriers are allowed. I didn't mention this earlier, but carriers are allowed. So I think we're going to see a lot of good Bogue players, and maybe some not so good Bogue players, and because of the way that carriers currently are, I think those matches where there are carriers will probably be decided in large part by the spotting done by those more experienced carriers. But hopefully they won't affect it too much. I really like the fact that they've not put too many gaps in the ranks. So there's I think the maximum number of ranks you have to climb up is 3 without an irrevocable rank. And so what that means basically is that even if you're quite an inexperienced player, you are still going to be able to rank out just by persevering, because eventually you will win, unless you are trying to lose. You will eventually win, and you will eventually get to rank 1, because eventually you'll just get lucky, and there's 3 stars in each rank, so it's not too much of a jump between each irrevocable rank and the next one, especially once you get into that the top league, because it's irrevocable at 5, 3, and 1, so you don't have very far to go to the next irrevocable rank. So it should be a fairly pleasant and enjoyable experience, and I love Tier 5. I think Tier 5 is a great tier. There's some interesting ships in there, and some of the mechanics to do with the artillery and some of the armor schemes are very interesting to think about. So the Furitaka here that I'm playing, for example, is a pretty tanky ship. It's got a good health pool. It's got good armor coverage. It can actually bounce some of the battleship shells at this tier. So yeah, it's quite an interesting ship to play, even though it is quite heavy. And one thing I did actually find doing this was that this map actually has 3 caps, but some of the maps they've chosen have 2 caps. And so the matches mostly get very brawly very quickly, which I actually like. I like brawling, especially in battleships, and I enjoyed taking the Congo in and punishing people who showed me a little bit too much ankle. And so you don't have to wait very long to get into battle. I think one of the things I don't like about high tier competitive is that because the maps are so big, especially clan battles where there's not many of you, I find that it just takes an eternity, or what feels like an eternity, to get into battle. You're talking potentially 5 minutes before you actually get to fire any shots in anger, and when you do that over and over and over again in a season, that just gets a little bit boring. So I love the fact that in this you basically all just charge forward and have at it. I think that's it's good fun. So I hope that this actually appeals to the newer players, and I hope it sort of whets their appetite for the higher tier competitive play, and gives them a little taster of what's coming without too much of the stress, although there will be a little bit of a grind. Haha, I got him. Yeah, I hope there won't be too much of that grindy feeling to it. I don't think there will be, and I hope that new players are enthused, and I hope also that the older, more experienced players also have fun. I know there's quite a few people in my clan who are looking forward to having fun with this and taking out a few lower tier ships that maybe they don't get to play quite so much, and certainly don't get to play in competitive. So it looks like it should be good fun. Well, I'll leave it there. So thanks for watching this extra footage, and I'll catch you soon. Don't forget to subscribe.